Good evening. My name's Brett Stalkup. Welcome to the Choices Podcast. You can find us at choicespodcastofficial.com, or you can find us on the Facebook group, Choices Podcast Official Group. You can ask questions by using the comment section on Facebook. We encourage you to ask questions during our show. We are all about making better choices in your life, in professional, business, and relationship parts of your life. We bring our guest on to really try to enhance your learning tools to make better choices, period. Tonight's show is on breaking the family cycle of anger and poverty. And I'm going to introduce our guest here a little bit and tell you a little bit more about how we're going to do that. But before I do, again, our co-host, Carcass John, the newlywed, and the Reverend Denny. So let's hear from these guys.
Hey, Brett. Hey, Denny.
Hey guys.
So far, 2 weeks. We're heading towards 2 weeks into the marital thing, and so far we still love each other, and we're having a great time.
That's
and
excellent.
we're looking forward to a honeymoon of sorts at the end of October. So we're pretty stoked about that, and still in the process of moving and making some choices about what to put in storage and what to kind of collaborate with the rest of the family. But it's been a real joy to have extra
We
people
could do a whole show on storage and choices on what to put in storage and what not.
And it's
how many to have and how many to not have.
I cannot stand storage units. It kills me every time I see that check going out. But
yeah, well,
crazy.
and I'm telling you, it's a tougher decision than you thought. And as I tried to make room in my home to accommodate 3 new folks, I had to make some tough choices. I have lots of stuff, and my dad says that he's happy to come down anytime, and we'd have the biggest yard record and tape yard sale in the history of mankind. And I almost invited him down to stay a couple extra days when they were down here for the wedding. But I got rid of some records. I got rid of some tapes. I made some room because the sacrifice was well worth it. So I made some good choices, I think. And I'll have to make some more here pretty soon because our garage is running out of space. But so far, so good.
All right. You got the lyrics for tonight?
Well, I do. And Denny, I'm sorry, man. This is like the perfect storm. So we have a guest that is very familiar with where I went to school. And we were in town last week to play the mighty SMU Mustangs, who I support, by the way. I really have grown fond of some of the local schools, especially SMU. The guy I work for was an All-American football player there, and so I do have some. They get some accolades from me, but so this is the Cougar Fight Song, and it has a couple of lines in there that I think are important, and it's a universal. I'm not just picking on Denny. But
Carcass, I'm gonna go on mute. Y'all signal me when it's finished.
No,
if you will.
No, Reverend, you need to hear every word. Reverend, your fans didn't even show up. I know you're out of town, but they're like, your fans. The stadium was empty, dude.
I was there.
Oh, okay, all right.
My friend asked
across
me
about 3 seats.
Yeah. My friend said, "Were you amongst the 500 that were there?" But anyway, so. As I thought about the game and I thought about our guest tonight, and I just thought this was poignant. I've sung this song a million times because, as you know, the fight song that BYU has was written back in the 30s, and every time they score a touchdown or a field goal, everybody sings this song, and so you just kind of go through the routine. But I really looked at the lyrics tonight, and I just thought, you know what? This has got a really good message. So it tells us all to rise up. It says, "Rise, all loyal Cougars, and hurl your challenge to the foe. You will fight day or night, rain or snow. Loyal, strong, and true, wear the white and blue. we'll sing, get set to spring. Come on, Cougars, it's up to you. So I thought about that, and I thought, that sounds kind of cheesy, but uh, you're in a crowd of 65,000 people typically, and you're asking all of them to unite for one cause. And I think the word loyal is a very important word, and we could probably do a whole show on loyalty and what that exactly what that means. Um, but it talks about fighting for our rights and hurling our challenges, and we don't have to do it alone. And it says in the last verse, on you go to vanquish the foe, and not just for your alma mater, but for their sons and daughters. As we join in song in praise of you, our faith is strong. And I just thought, man, that's a little more poignant than I thought. You know what I mean? Like I said, I've sung these lyrics over and over again at the games because, of course, BYU is known for their high-powered offense, and so they score a lot of points, and you sing those songs often. But I like the idea of loyalty and of unity and of actually doing something in the face of adversity, facing your challenge and facing it together and moving forward. So,
Well, you're going to love Kimberly then.
yeah.
Well, I'm still a little bitter even after hearing that, but I will give it to you. Those are pretty good lyrics.
Okay.
Why are you bitter?
Criticize.
Why?
Well, over this, SMU needed a 3-0 start here, had a bye week coming up, and then plays TCU, and it just kind of poured, some cold water on the situation.
Dude, I'm from Texas Tech, Red Raider. We're back where we used to always be.
You have your own set of problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard ACU, wasn't it, gave y'all kind of a difficult time?
Oh my gosh, don't even go there with me.
Okay.
What is that? Almost Christian University?
Washington State killed us. I'm back to pouring whiskey down the band tuba.
Well, I will say this. I'm very excited to hear from Kimberly tonight. Sounds like she's got a great topic and she's a great lady.
Well, let me tell you. So we put a lot of energy, the Reverend and Mark and Carcass and I do, in our guest. And we always like to think that they're God sent. And I truly believe that. And when Kimberly was visiting with us, her last name is Sechser, Kimberly Sechser. And I want to introduce her as an author because she's an amazing author. She's written 3 books that are fictional personal development books. And that's like a category all by itself. But she grew up in poverty. She grew up with 5 siblings, mom and dad, and they all lived in a single wide trailer. They had 3 rooms, 1 bathroom. And so she worked her way out of the pit, man. And she is brilliant. Her, I always like English majors. She went to college in Idaho, Brigham Young Christian College, and later another college. But she worked her way through school. She's not afraid to work. And she's going to tell us about that, how she did it. And I want to know, not only when I introduce her, how she did it, but what was it really like living in a trailer with 5 siblings, 3 girls and 2 boys? I mean, I like to slow that story down so that we can all feel the blessings that we are bestowed on a daily basis. And then the breaking the cycle of anger. I want to spend a lot of time with her on that. Y'all ready to meet her?
Yeah, sounds great.
All right, guys, meet Kimberly Sechser. Kimberly, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing great, Brett. Thanks.
Well, good.
Hi, Kimberly.
Hi.
So we're going to need the Reverend tonight because I think a lot of the breaking the cycle of anger is biblical, and poverty is biblical, and the Reverend's going to help us through that. So anyways, welcome to our show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So let's start by telling the people, what was it like living in a single wide trailer with 3 rooms, 3 bedrooms,
Yes.
1 bathroom?
Yes, the bathroom part was the really hard part because, first thing in the morning when you wake up and we're all getting ready for school and we all have to go to the bathroom at the same time, my mom would come in and flip on the light every morning. And that was our alarm clock, I guess. And so all of a sudden there's 5 people who all need to go to the bathroom at the same time. And so that could be a little bit of a challenge. I learned to shower or take a bath at night because doing that in the morning you either had to wake up super early. So if I wanted to do it in the morning, I had to wake up 45 minutes early or so to beat everyone else up, or else I had to do it the night before because there wasn't a lot of time in the morning to do it. And as some of my siblings got older, and actually this is going to sound funny, but some of my brothers were worse than my sisters. They took longer in the bathroom than the girls did. And so I was like, what is this? I don't even have to fight my sisters. I have to fight my brothers for time to get ready in the morning.
I want to give you a little bit of a secret. My brother did the same thing. He hid in the bathroom so he didn't have to do chores. And I went ahead and did them for him. But
that sounds like what some of my siblings would do.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So
keep going.
Yeah, so we had that. It also meant that there wasn't really a lot of space. So how it worked in the bedroom, because I had 2 sisters, was we had a bunk bed, and the upper bunk bed was just a normal single bunk bed, and then the lower bunk bed was like a double bed. And so there's actually 6 years between each of me and my sisters. So my parents managed to have us every 6 years approximately. So by the time I was a teenager, that youngest one was like 3 or 4. Anyway, so from the time she was born when I was just a little bit before I turned 12, I was actually assigned to be with her. My parents decided that would be a better situation than the other 2 girls being together. And so I always slept on the bottom bunk, and I had to sleep with the baby, right? Or like the 2-year-old or the 3-year-old or the 6-year-old or however old she was as she got older. And so that was kind of where I was. And then my other sister slept on the top. And part of that was because the 2 of them didn't get along very well. And so I don't know, I got that honor, I guess, to sleep with the sibling in the same bed. And so that was kind of interesting. She was actually a pretty crazy sleeper too. So sometimes I'd wake up because she kicked me out of bed. So before I got married, I knew what that was like.
Right. So what's your life like today? Tell me. You're married?
Much better today. So it's just me and my husband now. And so he doesn't kick me out of bed usually, though.
That's good. Where do you work?
So I work at a high school for part of my work. It's a high school called Weber Innovation High School. And so it's like an early college high school. So I get a lot of the students who are super good students and are looking to go to college and are actually trying to set themselves up for a really good situation in life, which is really nice. So
weren't you in an English major?
Yes, and you shouldn't hold that against me because I still come from a little hick town, and I speak hick is my first language and English is my second.
Oh no, the best lawyers that Denny and I ever see, the best lawyers are English majors.
Oh, okay.
That is so true.
Isn't that true, Denny?
Occasionally I get asked from a young person, hey, what would you want to go to law school? What would you recommend I major in? And I'm like, my number one choice would be English.
Yeah, you got to learn to read and write. Then you have to talk.
Yeah.
So how did you get yourself out of the trailer? That's what I want to know.
So from the time I was probably about 9th grade, I realized that school was important. Before that, I'm not sure that I really thought school was very important. I went to school and I enjoyed school and I did decently well, but it wasn't like a high priority of mine. And so I may or may not have done my homework through most of grade school and junior high. I was kind of on the course to not really be to breaking any chains or doing anything. I was just kind of going with the flow. At 9th grade, I started to look at things and go, wait a second, I want to have a better life, right? I don't want to really sit here forever. I don't really want to live in this town forever. I want to go out and do something else. And so I started taking my studies a little more serious, improved all of my grades. I'm sure my parents were happy about that. Started turning in my homework, started doing everything I was supposed to do, and then prepared myself, looked at what classes I needed to take. I had a very specific college in mind that I wanted to go to at the time, and they required that I have certain math classes. And so even though math was the the hardest subject for me. I immediately put like all my energy into passing math so that I could go to that university that I wanted to. And so that became a driving force for me to get a decent GPA, because I wanted to be able to get, some scholarships. I realized I wasn't going to get, I didn't have a 4.0, so that was out, but I at least wanted to be eligible for some, and I wanted a university to accept me. And so I started working really hard on my grades. And I also, at the time, so my dad owned his own business. And so I worked in his business. So I also worked while I was all through high school. I actually started working when I was in 6th grade.
That's how people work their way out of poverty.
Yeah.
They work.
Yeah.
I started when I was 13 in a hayfield.
Okay.
Yeah. And no one gave me nothing.
Yeah.
And I told my kids when they were 18, you got 5 years on me. You better start figuring it out. So you went to college and you worked your way through college, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then you were an English teacher, and then you wrote 3 books.
Yeah,
Right?
that easy too. It went just like that.
No, I know about that book writing. It's not easy. So our show tonight is about making better choices, and we're talking about breaking the cycle, the family cycle of anger. Okay. I want to spend some time with you on that. When I was talking to you, or we were talking to you, it came close to my heart because both my parents were alcoholics, and my dad was Indian, and Indian and firewater don't go together. And I don't talk about it much. I wanted to break it. And it started at about 9th grade for me, where I started figuring out my grades were going to be my way to freedom. So tell me how you broke the family cycle of anger.
So there's a lot of things like that. So I noticed as a teenager, so my natural disposition is to be fairly cheerful, which was good for me. But I still picked up on a lot of those anger things. And sad to say, some of my siblings were the recipients of some of that anger at times. And so somewhere, though, I knew that this wasn't right. And I think that's actually the first step. Realizing there's a problem is realizing that what you're doing is that it's actually a problem, that it's not okay to do it anymore. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So like looking at it and saying this is a problem and it needs to stop. And so, I started working on that. And so how I would kind of work on that is trying to, I don't know, I found little things I could do. I had read a few books at that time. My mom actually had a pretty good bookcase full of books, and she enjoys nonfiction books, and so a lot of them had to do with nonfiction things. And I really like to read, and so I would go and read things. And so I was picking up a few tools here and there without even realizing that I was doing it. I wasn't intentionally doing it; it was just happening. And so,
how many personal development books would you say that you've read
in my whole life?
Yeah.
Somewhere between like 300 and 450.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so tell Carcass about what your goal is after you read a book. This is really fascinating to me.
Oh yeah. So I usually pick out one or two things, because I know I can't possibly do everything that's in any given book. And I want to be able to get something out of it. And I know you have to apply something if you're going to get anything. And so I always take one or two things that were the most important to me and I write them down. And that's what I work on for the next little while until I finish another book. Is just to take those things and try to improve my life in some small way. Because that's really like, it's the little things. We always want to think that we need to do something big, or there's some big thing that will change our whole life. But really, it's those little tiny things that we change that we do every day.
You chip away at it. It's not like magic dust is going to come down and fall on you.
No,
it's acknowledging, talking, listening, communicating, and making yourself aware when you do get angry. I know when I get angry, I journal. I journal in a specific way, but I know that if I'm frustrated, I get angry. Yeah. Number 2, if I feel that somebody's playing me, it gets ugly quick. If I get quiet for about 30 seconds, then the rest is just really bad.
Mhm.
So if I can, journaling keeps me from looking at my inner child, which inner child, when you grew up the way that you grew up, your inner child's in there and it's probably a little dirty and it's probably a little trying to stay above water, blah, 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 blah. So we have to learn to teach the inner child how to be mature
Yes,
and make mature decisions. You agree with that?
I do. 100%. Yes.
You know, because when we were talking to you and you went back when I started talking to you about breaking the cycle of anger, you obviously had a body change. You were like, oh, okay, here we go. You know, it's like, all right, here we go. I got to go back and I'm going to have to deal with it. I don't want to peel the onion back on you. I would never do that without telling you it's going to happen.
Right.
But with that, how did you find your freedom in your heart?
That's a good question. I guess part of it was a realization that things could be different. Like I spent a lot of time looking around at other people and like seeing. So my parents are divorced, but their marriage was never very good due to a lot of issues, some of which were anger issues, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I spent a lot of time watching other people and being like, okay, some of these people look genuinely happy. Some of these people seem like they have it together. Like everyone is not living like this. And I'd watch them and like try to figure out what they were doing differently so that I could figure out how I could do what they were doing. So I could get some of the results they were getting instead of the results
exactly right.
my family was getting.
I used to teach that in my motivational seminar. Pick somebody that you want to be like and tell me what's good about them.
Yeah.
It sounds like that's what you do.
It is. And here's the interesting thing. I didn't even know that any of these were real things. They were just like survival skills for me. I had to find something, right? That it couldn't be like this for real. In my brain, I just couldn't imagine that this had to be my life forever. And so I literally had to pick out something. And so I didn't have all these, like now I have tons of tools. I've been to tons of seminars. I've done tons of personal work on myself. But back then I didn't have any of that. I was just a teenager, but this was like my survival, my coping methods was to like pick out all these things and figure out how, and I would just sit there and dream about my future life. Like literally daydream, just sit there and think like, this is what I want to have. I didn't know that was like a real thing either until later. These are just things that like, somehow I had to figure out something and it couldn't be just what I was doing. You know what I mean?
So give us the 3 strongest tools that you have learned to get yourself through to breaking the cycle of anger and poverty in your family.
One of them is thinking about how I want, is like imagining the life I really wanted. Like, what would I be like? How would things be? What would the circumstances be? And even thinking about, I used to think about better ways to actually handle my anger. So I was consciously aware that I needed to change it. And I started, like, the only thing I could think of to change it was to figure out something else to replace it with. So like when I get angry, instead of pummeling my younger brother, well, I will do this instead, right? And so that was kind of it. So like actually just replacing it with something else would be like number 2, right? So and again, I didn't even know that was a real tool. It was just something that happened. So I would think about what I really wanted in my future. I would change up like what I was doing and figure out some other way to do it. And then number 3, I think number 3, the tool really was watching other successful people and figuring out how I could get what they were going to have. Like, that's really what I wanted.
Before I'm going to get Carcass and Reverend to jump in here real fast, but before I do, when I hear you talk, I hear vision board. Vision board. Have you ever done a vision board?
I have. I did do one once for the first time, like maybe 8 or 9 years ago, actually.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I hear you, because it puts the vision is, you know, Dr. Phil or Phil, he's a friend. And he used to always teach me about neurolinguistics. Neurolinguistics is putting a physical happening with an emotional event. And so he's like, if you can claim it, if you can take a picture of it, if you can glue it to a board, if you can do that, then hang it up in your closet, it's it's set in your mind, and your mind is going to go to it. Does that make sense to you?
Yep. Can I actually tell you the one that actually, this is probably the biggest thing that helped me.
Okay.
But not that everyone necessarily has to have this, although I assume that your show has some of this because of who's on here. But one of the biggest things that honestly helped me with breaking all these things and doing this was God. It was believing that he had a better plan for me than this. And that could help me, that something could change and I did not have to stay here. Like, God did not put me here to fail. He did not put me here to be stuck, to have a miserable life. I truly believe that I was here to be happy and that I should be happy. And that went a long way in changing the way, when you really believe that you're supposed to do something, it changes the way you think, the way you act, everything you do.
Wow.
Well, I'll amen that. And you know, Kimberly, as I listen to you, and you've done such great self-study, there's a saying I love: information without application is an abomination. And you know, you can read 1,000 books, but if you don't get to the point of going, okay, I'm going to apply this information in my life, and I love what you said, that, because frankly, I don't think I've ever done that. At the end of reading a book, make a note. What's the one or two things that really jumped out here that I can take and I can apply to my life and make a difference. And I think that's a great lesson for us all. But you applied. You were determined to make a difference, not just gathering all the information, because that's the thing. We can all, and especially some of us spend a lot of time in school. You get information. But hey, if you don't go out and apply it, it's kind of worthless, right?
True.
So kudos to you. And while I'm talking, if I could throw in, you don't have to answer this right now, but I think it might be helpful to maybe identify too, when we talk about anger. You may disagree with me. I think it, in some terms, that anger in and of itself is not bad if it's controlled. I mean, sometimes it can be a nice motivator, right? If we don't bring sin into it. It's when we bring sin in with the anger,
Right.
that it's really destructive. And I take it that the kind of anger that you're talking about that you dealt with was not just, well, I got mad because this or that happened. There was some histrionics, or I don't know if there was violence, and I'm not trying to get into that, but there was not just little disagreements when we talk about
Right.
anger here.
Right. No, we're talking about real anger that leads to other problems and issues, and that really shouldn't be done. We're not talking about like the righteous indignation of God, right? Like, we're talking about indignation. Holy cow, that's a hard word. Indignation of God.
Yes.
We're talking about like real anger that should not be happening, that actually is destructive and puts people down and hurts people. Yeah.
It took me a long time to learn the tools to break that cycle. I saw a lot that I shouldn't have probably seen. But my girls, I've never laid a hand on them. they know it too. They sucker me every day. So Carcass.
Yeah.
You know what?
I'm right.
She's not a cougar though, Carcass.
No, she's close enough though. BYU, Idaho. In fact, my uncle Don owned property up in there and still does. And they became student housing at when it was Rick's College. And now they're a 4-year affiliate of BYU. So BYU is BYU, whether it's Hawaii, whether it's Idaho, whether it's Mexico City, whether it's Virginia Southern. Anyway, but you know what? Something that is interesting about what's being said, about 9th grade, I guess I had an epiphany also. And I started to realize that that we're liberated by our obedience, not imprisoned by it. And I know that, and Kimberly's probably well aware, because I think we're probably from a similar religious background, that it seems like all my friends thought we just have so many rules and so many things you can't do. But I thought about all the things I could do, and I just kind of flipped it. And I realized one of our church leaders said famously, "There's no all at once in life." And I started to realize that I'm not going to go to kindergarten and graduate with a master's degree in college. I had to take it step by step, and there was a process of doing that. I like the idea of believing in something better. Like, this can't possibly be it. We certainly have got to, success is kind of a mixed bag. We just had this discussion in our own house, is what really is success. I mean, we're not rich by any means, but we're happy. We are not opulent in our lifestyle, but we have plenty. And I think that putting those things into perspective, I learned that anger was kind of a wasted. I used to be, I used to be quite the. I used to be a better athlete than I am now, and basketball was my thing. And I think there was a lot could be said for someone who kept their cool. And I learned that anger was a wasted emotion. I had a martial arts teacher tell me that, and he said you should focus your emotions to success. That was his big thing. And I think nowadays I don't get angry. I get frustrated, or I'm disappointed, which maybe even I would making my parents angry was no big deal, but disappointing them, that was a really big deal. And that was a whole different set of statutes and emotions. But anyway, I really like, and plus we've discussed the information without application idea, because I deal with lots and lots of highly educated landscape architects and so forth, and they really don't have a clue what's happening because they have no practical knowledge, and they haven't utilized those nuggets of truth and knowledge to a real benefit. But the thing about reading books, sometimes and this goes for whether you're reading the scriptures or just grabbing a book. Sometimes when I feel frustrated or a little bit lost, I just open a book and read, whether it's a self-help book or whether it's, I've carried that John Patterson book around in my car, and I've read through it twice, and I just grab it and open it up and read a chapter out of that thing. And I just realize how fortunate we are sometimes. And you can talk about fate, divine intervention, whatever, but sometimes that random act of just picking up a book and opening to a page will help us sort through our frustrations or our disillusions or disappointments, what have you. And plus, I think I've mentioned on the show, I have a creative bend to me. I do freelance art. And when I read books, my art is better, period. And when I feel creatively frustrated, I read a book. And for some reason, that process in my brain helps my creativity. Don't ask me why. It just does.
What was your favorite book you read, Kimberly? Besides the Bible, I know you love the Bible.
Yeah, I do like that. So yeah, I read the Bible and the Book of Mormon. Man, that depends. Like if it's a self-help book, one of my favorite books was actually called The Magic of Thinking Big. I really enjoyed that book. But as far as like fictional books go, I have to tell you, I love Harry Potter. It's my thing.
Well,
I don't
girls
know.
are with you. They love Harry Potter. Hey, I'm going to do, okay, guys, can I do something a little different tonight?
Sure.
Sure.
It's our show. We can do whatever we want.
Yeah. So I had, we were talking about a favorite quote of Kimberly's, and it was like, just feel the fear and do it. Right?
Yeah.
So my wife was like, I think it's deeper than that. We were sitting on the patio. She sent me this quote, and it's wonderful. You need 3 daily wins. A physical win, walking, running, lifting, swimming. A mental win, reading, writing, creating, learning. A spiritual win, praying, meditating, studying, growing. Be a complete winner. I love that, don't you?
I like that. I think that's perfect.
It is perfect.
It's true.
It is true. It leads to a solid life,
It
you
does.
know?
Yeah.
And if you're balanced in those three areas where you're doing it every day, God, I think you could just feel a lot more joy and kindness.
You know what, Brett? You said balance, which is a key word. I actually wrote it down. So, Kimberly, just so you know, if I'm looking down, I'm writing something
Okay.
because I'm going to utilize what we learned. But what I started learning at a young age, and it's helped transpire into my adult life, even at my advanced age. I was thinking about the weight and the worth of our choices. I remember a very specific time. I told my dad I was going to go to a party at a friend's house, and I was driving, and he trusted that I wasn't going to go get blasted and then drive the car or whatever. But he said, I would prefer you didn't, but you can make the choice. And I said, well, I'm thinking I'm going to the party, man. We're going to have fun and listen to records and whatever. And he said, but here's the consequences. If you go to the party, you can't drive for 2 weeks. And I thought, well, who's going to know? What is he going to know if I go or not? And I ended up going. And in retrospect, and of course, I got home and he had his hand out looking for the keys. And so I thought, I just sacrificed 2 weeks of a driving privilege for what?
A
So
bad choice.
and I didn't do anything wrong, really. I mean, but my dad knew that there would be influences there that were probably not real conducive to a 17-year-old kid with a brand new driver's license and a bundle of records under his arm. And but then I started wondering about that balance. That the weight of those choices, is that going to be of benefit, or is it going to be a burden? And I learned really fast to think about weighing that out and finding some sort of a balance there. I mean, we're not perfect, so we're going to make bad decisions, but what do we learn from that bad decision? It kind of like baseball. It's not okay to strike out, but you're going to.
Yeah.
But what do we do to not strike out the next time?
So
Anyway,
Kimberly, tell us, we're getting toward the end of our show, so I want to make sure we get this in. Tell us the name of your books and how our viewers could buy it.
So the first one is called The Greatest Investor in the World. The second one is called The Greatest Treasure in the World. And the third one is called The Greatest Gift in the World. And they can all be purchased at Amazon. You can look up my name or any of the book titles. Also, you can go to my website, which is www.firedupseminar.com. And you can also find them there. They're under the books section. So, yep.
And you're a motivational speaker. You teach. You do ropes. You teach goal setting. You teach emotional development.
Yep.
You do all sorts of cool stuff.
Seminars. I do some team building with youth groups and church groups and companies too sometimes. So I still teach things because we have like debriefing and all sorts of stuff after the different activities. I try to stretch people a little bit.
Reverend, look how excited she gets.
Yeah, for sure.
Dude,
well, she's doing what she loves. That's for sure.
You know what? We just got a quote for the end of the show, and we're going to use it by one of our listeners. Anyways, I really think you're a cool, real. Oh, did you see my little friend? This is Louis. Louis runs the house. Yeah, King Louis. I think that if anybody deserves to be heard, it's you. I think you're a really, really cool person.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think you guys are all cool too.
Oh, wow, you're awesome. And your heart is real. And you've chipped away and chipped away and chipped away and grabbed and grabbed and grabbed and grabbed and learned and learned and learned and learned. And you're free.
Yeah.
Wow. I can't wait till you have kids. So, anything else you guys want to throw at her?
No, I think this has been excellent. And I mean, like I said, I know these podcasts are designed to help others, but as Confucius would say, you help your neighbor across the stream, and you find you're on the other bank too. And I think I feel like I've been enriched more than our audience, maybe. But very cool. Thanks for your time, Kimberly. It was impressive.
Okay, Kimberly, we're going to give you another shot. We'd love to end our show with your favorite quote. And it's time for your favorite quote.
All right. It's feel the fear and do it anyway.
All right. I love it. How about you, Reverend?
I love that.
Hey, Reverend, you know what?
Yes.
My favorite Bible scripture is Timothy 2:1. God doesn't want you to feel the spirit of fear. He wants you to feel power, love, and sound mind.
Yep.
Absolutely, man. I love
Yeah.
that.
Hey,
God is love, and we fear God in a reverent way, right?
Yes.
Well,
Not reverent like me, but reverent.
If you look up the Hebrew of how that's the context of that, it's I'm so afraid to disappoint him.
Yes.
That's a better context. I don't think I never feared my father, but I was always keen that I didn't want to disappoint him.
Oh, I'm scared of God, dude. I'm so scared of him. I've been flat. When you've been flat and you wait for someone to give you a hand to help you up, that's when God, and then he shows you the miraculous way back, like Kimberly's done. Man, it's just, hey, he's got me. Yeah.
Brett, so
hey, well, I love you guys. We had a great show. Y'all be good.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thanks again.
Bye-bye.